The Bible contains the mind of God, the state of man, the way of salvation, the doom of sinners, and the happiness of believers. Its doctrines are holy, its precepts are binding, its stories are true, and its decisions are immutable. Read it to be wise, believe it to be safe, and practice it to be holy. It contains light to direct you, food to support you, and comfort to cheer you. It is the traveler's map, the pilgrim's staff, the pilot's compass, the soldier's sword, and the Christian's charter. Here, paradise is restored, heaven opened, and the gates of hell disclosed. Christ is its grand subject, our good the design, and the glory of God its end. It should fill the memory, rule the heart, and guide the feet. Read it slowly, frequently, and prayerfully. It is a mine of wealth, health to the soul, and a river of pleasure. It involves the highest responsibility, will reward the greatest labor, and will condemn all who trifle with its sacred contents. Pray it in, read it through, live it out, and pass it on.
Israel was God's chosen nation. As we will see, God's promises are obtained by obedient people who are hungry for God. Like Cain and Abel, Isaac's children, Jacob and Esau, represent two very different kinds of people. Jacob desired spiritual things, but Esau wanted physical things and despised the things of God. These two types of people are illustrated in the Old Testament as examples to us, to give us an understanding of how we can either choose the things of God or choose the things of this world. Let's see if we can look at these two characters and apply the way they responded to God to our own lives. In Genesis chapter 25, verses 21 through 34, it says, "Now Isaac pleaded with the Lord for his wife because she was barren. And the Lord granted his plea. And Rebekah, his wife, conceived. But the children struggled together within her. And she said, 'If all is well, why am I like this?' So she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said to her, 'Two nations are in your womb. Two peoples shall be separated from your body. One people shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger.' So when her days were fulfilled for her to give birth, indeed there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red. He was like a hairy garment all over. So they called his name Esau. Afterward, his brother came out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel, so his name was called Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when she bore them. So the boys grew, and Esau was a skillful hunter, a man of the field. But Jacob was a mild man, dwelling in tents. And Isaac loved Esau because he ate of his game, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Now, Jacob cooked a stew, and Esau came in from the field, and he was weary. And Esau said to Jacob, 'Please feed me with some red stew, for I'm weary.' Therefore his name was called Edom. But Jacob said, 'Sell me your birthright as of this day.' And Esau said, 'Look, I'm about to die, so what is this birthright to me? Then Jacob said, swear to me as of this day. So he swore to him and sold his birthright to Jacob. And Jacob gave Esau bread and stew of lentils. Then he ate and drank, arose and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. Esau sold his birthright, which belonged to him as the firstborn son, because he was hungry. The birthright gave him a double portion of his father's property and the right to be the physical and spiritual leader of the family. So we see from Esau selling his birthright, selling his privilege, selling the things that were to be given to him because of how he became the first son in his family. He was showing that he was not regarding the spiritual nature of the provision in his life. Later, as Isaac was dying, he told Esau to go and prepare a meal for him, for he was going to pray and release a spiritual blessing over him. But Jacob and his mother conspired together. She fixed a meal, and Jacob dressed in Esau's clothes and covered his hands and neck with animal skins because Esau was hairy. Jacob then presented Isaac with the meal, posing as Esau. Blind Isaac was tricked, and he blessed Jacob as if he were Esau. When Esau returned, he was shocked and furious. Genesis 27, verses 35 and 36 says it this way. But he said, your brother came deceitfully and took your blessing. Esau says, isn't he rightly named Jacob? He has deceived me these 2 times. He took my birthright, and now he's taken my blessing. Then he asked, haven't you reserved any blessing for me? Jacob fled to his uncle Laban's home for fear of his life, where he fell in love with Rachel. Instead of paying a dowry for Rachel, Jacob agreed to work 7 years for Laban. At the end of 7 years, Laban deceived him, and he was married to Rachel, Leah's sister. And from this we can see the principle, you reap what you sow. Jacob's deceit was reaped when he was deceived by Laban. He was then told that he could marry Rachel immediately, but only if he agreed to work 7 additional years. Years later, Jacob returned home. On his way, Jacob met with God, who appeared as a man and did not allow God to leave until he blessed him. While Jacob wrestled with God, his name was changed to Israel, which means prince with God. This indicates that because we may have made sins, committed sins in our lives and done things that are unpleasing to God, that doesn't mean that it has to mean that the rest of our life should be lived that way. There can be a change that takes place. And this change was indicated by Jacob's desire to not let God go until he had blessed him. Genesis chapter 32, verse 28. And he said, your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have struggled with God and with men and have prevailed. Key number 6. God will always bless people who are hungry for him. Did you realize that Jacob's hunger for God changed the entire fate of a nation? Your hunger for God can change the identity of a nation as well.